What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 8 of my 2021 Halloween special. And today we're going to be talking about Don't Breathe, directed by Fede Alvarez and starring Jane Levy, Dylan Minnette, and Stephen Lang. So Don't Breathe tells the story of 3 thieves who hope to walk away with a massive fortune from the home of a blind man, who upon breaking in they realize is not as helpless as he seems. When this film came out, it received critical acclaim. So many critics were calling this one of the best thrillers in years. Audiences seemed to really dig it, but the film did become known in large part due to its controversial content in the third act. However, it has remained a very well-regarded thriller, and most people still look at it with a positive perspective. Now, I didn't know anything the first time I watched it. I was aware that there is a controversy surrounding it, but I was not aware of, what kind of controversy or what kind of content was in that third act. All I knew was that I really wanted to watch it because I love a really good thriller, and everyone was telling me that this was a great one. And indeed it is. This film blew me away the first time I watched it, and I just rewatched it today in preparation for this review, and I feel the same. I think that Don't Breathe is one of the best thrillers ever made. Just from a craftsmanship perspective, this is one of the most well-crafted thrillers that I have ever seen. Everything from the cinematography to the sound design and the lighting, everything is just really top tier. We also have some unexpectedly sympathetic leads, particularly Jane Levy and Dylan Minnette. I found myself really caring about these characters despite the fact that they are criminals and what they are doing is technically wrong. But it's their motivation behind it that gets you to like them, that gets you to care about them, and in particular Jane Levy, her motivation, why she needs this money, why she wants to get it so badly, it was very, very well executed. And this film understands one of the key aspects that all of the best thrillers out there understand, and that is that simplicity is key. This is a very, very simple premise. It's like a what-if scenario. It's kind of like, hey, what if a bunch of people tried to break into the home of a blind man because he's blind, so it'll be easy, right? But the blind man isn't as defenseless as he seems. There you go. Instant thriller. It's such a great idea, and it makes me wonder why it's never been done before. Now, yes, there have been iterations of a similar kind of idea. There's a movie called Until Dark, I believe, which is a great film, but in that movie, the woman in the house, she is blind and people are breaking in, but she's not, an extremely... Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but, it's a much different situation in Until Dark. Just trust me. This film is a perfect example of how to make so much out of so little. There's also brilliant lighting and sound design. I briefly discussed this earlier, but truly, so much of the tension in this movie has to go to the lighting and sound design. It has a very orange and green type feel to it. Also, incredible camera work. There is a very, very good one take when they first get into this house, panning around with each character, showing things and foreshadowing things that might come into play later in the story, while also showing you the layout of the house and every part of it. So it's kind of like giving you a blueprint. It's like, this is the setting, this is where everything is, got it? Okay, now time for the thrills. It was so well done. Now, I've alluded to the tension, I've alluded to the fact that this film has very good tension, but I don't want to, understate it. The tension in this movie is insane. It's almost unbearable how tense this movie is. If you're someone who is easily anxious, I never want to tell people not to watch a movie, but man, if you're easily anxious, watch the movie because it's going to affect you very, very much, but just be wary of it, because this film is so suspenseful. This is one of the most tension-filled, suspense-riddled movies that I have ever seen. And also, Stephen Lang as this blind man, fantastic performance. This might be one of my favorite... No, this is my favorite performance of his. Stephen Lang is known for playing, the really uptight military guy. Honestly, he was in that show, Terra Nova. Does anyone remember that show? I remember that show, and you know what? I like that show. Say what you want about the special effects, I really like that show. And Stephen Lang as Taylor, Commander Taylor in that show, really great. I want to do a video on Terra Nova. I'm going to do a video on Terra Nova. In all seriousness, Stephen Lang is really, really terrifying in this movie. There's also some very well done reveals towards the midpoint and especially into the third act of this film that I really did not expect. And what I liked about it was that it didn't overstay its welcome. It still kept it very simple, and it just felt like another great layer to add to it to make it all the more terrifying. There's also some unique ideas and execution of them. There's a great sequence in this movie where the blind man gets Jane Levy and Dylan Minnette to see what he sees, to see as he sees, and so he kind of puts them in the same place that he is visually and mentally. That was such a well done scene. Honestly, just all the ideas in this movie are executed pretty much flawlessly in my opinion. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, there is a controversy surrounding this movie, and even though it has remained a very, very well regarded thriller, people still can't seem to help but talk about it. And honestly, I am going to talk about it because it's such a big plot point in the movie that I feel like it can't really be avoided. Not going to spoil anything, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the controversy. There's a reveal in the third act of this movie that is very disturbing and really messed up, and to think that the writer even came up with that, it's kind of disturbing to think about. Now, it works as a very scary and disturbing reveal, and that's clearly the point. However, I can't understand why a lot of people are very, like, okay, that's too much. This movie's very tense and it was very scary, but this is just too disturbing. And I can understand that, especially if you've been a victim of a particular trauma, particularly with what the third act of this movie kind of goes into. And believe it or not, I don't want to get too personal, but I can relate to it to a certain extent. But as a filmmaker and as someone who loves movies and who loves movies that affect me very deeply, I just found it extremely well done and extremely effective. Now, there are some people who I do think are going overboard with calling it like an exploitation movie, and it's just violent, and the third act is just it's just exploitation movie, blah, blah, blah. No, it's nowhere near that at all. This movie actually isn't even really that violent. There's like one or two kills in this movie where there's some blood, but there is no gore to be found whatsoever. And, I can't really defend the third act reveal. It is really messed up, but I think to call it exploitation is just not... I don't think that's fair at all, because you don't really see anything. It's just that the implication is so unbearably disturbing, and I think that's why a lot of people look at it and tend to go overboard when describing it in the way that they do. But that's just me. Film is subjective. If you feel differently about it, that's totally fine, and you are completely valid. In regards to issues with the movie, I would say that the final few minutes feel kind of unnecessary. I get it, I get why it's in there, and it doesn't ruin the rest of the movie for me. It just kind of felt like, oh, okay, I guess. You know what I mean? It doesn't ruin the rest of the movie, but it just feels somewhat inconsequential in the long run. But overall, I think this is a fantastic thriller, so well done, so well crafted, and definitely one of the best modern day horror films. It's one of my favorites, and I'm going to give Don't Breathe an A. So guys, Don't Breathe. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Let me know down in the comments, and also let me know what you think of the controversy. Personally, a lot of people are like, that's just too disturbing. However, I do feel that movies need to continuously be pushing boundaries, because if there hadn't been something like that, yes, it goes further than a lot of horror movies are willing to go, but I think that's a good thing, because it's new and it's scarier than other stuff, and so it stands out as a film that is scarier and works better as a horror film. It's a horror film. It's supposed to be horrific, so I think it works better because of that than a lot of other horror movies that are, intense, but tend to, in the long run, play it safe. Let me know all your thoughts about that down in the comments. Just make sure to keep it friendly. Look forward to episode 9 of my 2021 Halloween special. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It really does mean a lot. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.